Welcome to Parenting Successful Teens. I'm Allie Irwin, and I'm here to remind you that you are already a great mom. I know that parenting teens is hard, but it doesn't have to be this hard. Listen in, and I'll teach you how to feel confident that you can handle whatever parenthood throws at you, and even make it fun. Yes, fun. I love this phase of life, and you can too. Many times, parenting just feels too hard. Honestly, too hard for too little reward. The too little reward part is the part nobody talks about because it feels like we're talking smack about our kids. Ugh. And while we're comfortable complaining about the laundry they leave on the floor and the dishes they leave in their room, it doesn't feel great to say, hey, this parenting thing might not be worth it. But I've definitely thought that. In moments of struggle, as I laid crying on the floor in my closet. Side note, I live in the Midwest where we have huge closets. When I lived in New Jersey, my closet was so small. I kept my clothes in the laundry room in the basement, so no room for crying in my closet. But in the moments where things were really tough, I've had that thought, like, why did I do this? This wasn't worth it. The cost of feeling this bad is not being outweighed by the joys. And then I would think, so what do I do with that? I don't want my kids to be different than they are. I mean, I do want to not be having this problem. I want them to be calling more and visiting more and being more interested in my life. Like, I don't always want to be the one asking questions about their life. I would like them to be voluntarily picking the puzzle up that's been laying on the living room floor. Like, they're waiting for me to pick it up so they can do another puzzle. I want those things to be different, but I don't want the core of them to be different. And in fact, I want them to deeply, deeply believe that they are okay and worthy exactly as they are, that they don't have to do anything to, like earn my love or be more worthy in any way. And then after I had those thoughts, I'd go right back to crying because it feels like an unsolvable problem. Like, how do I accept them fully as they are and not be in so much freaking pain? So I'd like to introduce this framework that helped me, like the framework I came up with when I was feeling that way. And to do that, I want you to think about an old-timey set of scales, like the scales of justice, which are those scales that have the two gold pans that are balanced on chains on either side of a lever arm. And the idea is you want those two sides to balance out, right? This is what they used to use, before we had digital scales. When you were buying something at a market, they would want like the amount of coffee. They would want to weigh the amount of coffee to tell you how much you paid. They want the benefit of the amount of coffee you're getting to be commensurate with the cost, with the amount that you're paying for that item. And so I want you to think about those scales. Hopefully you have that picture in your mind. If not, Google Scales of Justice or look at the episode cover. But on one side are all the costs that you notice, that you incur of being a parent. And on the other side are all the great parts, all the benefits. So we'll start with the cost side. On the cost side, you have the actual financial costs of being a parent, like every pair of shoes and restaurant bill and, tutor and tuition and all that you spend on them. That is a cost to you. Those are items you are not buying and enjoying for yourself. It's a cost. And there's the cognitive cost, all the time cost that you spend thinking and planning for their future and reminding them to do their homework and making dentist appointments and reading all those emails from school and all of those things, helping them write an email to their coach or a professor. In addition, you have emotional costs like worrying when you can't get a hold of them, frustration when they aren't listening, rejection, grief, sadness. Remember, we're just on the cost side. We're going to get to the good side. I'm not trying to talk you out of being a parent because you already are. And there's the physical costs, and it takes a toll. Like, parents get less sleep than non-parents do. Time costs, relationship costs. We spend less time typically with our friends, and it changes our marriage. So you can see when you add all those up, there's a lot of costs. And studies, including one from the American Time Use Survey, show that women without children are happier than women with children. So like the research data bears out that there are a lot of costs, especially to women, of being a mom. And Paul Dolan summed it up really nicely in his book, Happily Ever After, when he said, the healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who never got married or had children. But all that can be true, but what do we do with that? I mean, we have kids and we love them. We don't actually want to give them back when we're, sad and frustrated and all of that. And even if we did, we can't go back. We're moms. And again, we don't want to, but damn, it's a lot. And mostly we're encouraged to stop noticing those costs. We're told that when we're thinking or noticing those costs, acknowledging them even, we're being selfish and we're ruining our children, when we acknowledge the burden of parenting. That's one of the reasons that I especially like the scales image, because it's literally a visual image of the weight of parenting, of being a mom. And we're told the solution to that is to just focus on the benefits, the snuggles we got when they were little, or the pride we feel when they're doing well, or the love we feel when they give us a hug or call us for help or tell us they love us. But the tricky piece with that is that's harder to do with teenagers and young adults because they're often so prickly. Like when they're little, they make artwork in school that says, "Mommy, I love you," and they bring it home every day, and they can't wait to see you after work. But when they're older, they're separating from us. They want to do things their own way. They do things their own way when we tell them, here's the easy way to do it. And then they ask us to clean up their messes. I am sure you have stories about how your child completely disregarded your good advice, caused a huge problem, and then asked you to help them clean it up. They disregard our feelings. That's the prickly, angsty piece. I am sure at some point you've gotten an Olympic level sigh or eye roll when you were asking them something perfectly reasonable. And I want to note here, that is not all kids, and that is not any kid all the time. Many teenagers are loving and sweet and helpful. And if you are not experiencing one of those prickly, angsty teenagers, yay. But even those kids are separating from you. And in some ways, that can even be harder because you continue to want to be around them often. You miss those long walks you used to take together, or the horror movies you used to watch together, or the elaborate meals that you used to make together. Because now they're busy with their friends and their homework, and you almost miss them more because they're such a delight to be around. So now that you've thought about the things sitting on both sides of that scale, what I want you to notice is how balanced they feel. Because what happens when we're feeling really bad as a parent is that our scales are out of balance. If you go back to the coffee at the market example, it's like the price of coffee shot up. And while you love that coffee for $10 a pound, now it seems like it costs $50 a pound and you're upset because you don't have any coffee because you don't want to pay that much. Okay? That's the feeling that we have when those scales get out of balance and parenting feels too hard. And that balance is a little bit of what we're talking about in some parenting discussions when they're talking about helicopter parents versus free range parents. That debate comes in when one type of parent looks at the other parent and thinks that their costs are out of whack. The free range parents look at the helicopter parents and say, like, you are spending too many resources on these kids. These kids need to be doing things more on their own. You shouldn't be too involved. You're spending too many resources, time, attention, energy, all of those things. And then the helicopter parents look at the free range parents and say, you are not spending enough resources on your kids. Your scales are out of whack. You're being negligent and not giving them more help, more of the help that kids need and deserve. Okay, that's not the whole discussion. There's a lot of other components in there, but that is one piece of that debate. Is they're viewing that one person's scales are more valid than another person's scales. Okay, so that's sort of an important piece to know, is that your scales and your balance are going to be different than other parents' balances, and that is 100% okay. So most of the advice out there is looking primarily at one side of the scale or the other scale. They're either saying make the costs lower, so spend less time, energy, thought, cognitive load, like make them figure things out on their own, be less involved, all the ways, make them incur more of their own costs, take on more of their own chores. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like reducing the costs is a very good idea if your scales are out of balance. Or they'll say, a lot of the advice out there is straight up, here's how to control or manipulate your kids so that you get more reward. And while I do disagree with controlling and manipulating our kids, the idea of getting more benefit from our relationship with them is valid. Okay, so both of those pieces have valid points, but what I think they miss is that big picture of the balance. And I would change on the reward side if, rather than controlling or manipulating, if the reward side feels too low, I would ask these questions instead. I would ask, how could I enjoy being a parent more? Like, should our family be doing more fun things together? Like, what fun things could we find to do together? What are the great parts of them that I could find new ways to enjoy? Like, they used to do this thing that was so super great, but now they've changed and they do this other thing, but I'm still back on the thing that they used to do and maybe not noticing the new thing that they do that I could really enjoy. Okay? What thoughts am I having about them that are keeping me from enjoying them as they are right now? Many parents have thoughts about how their kids should be behaving, and that keeps them from enjoying, like they have the standard, and when the kids don't hit that standard, then they can't enjoy their kids. And so maybe there's some flexibility in those thoughts that would allow you to enjoy your kids more right now. What joy am I putting off for someday when the room isn't a stinky science experiment? Like, many times parents go, like, into the future when this thing that's bothering you won't be a problem anymore. And you're like, I'll be happy then. And while you're waiting between now and then, your scales just sit out of balance because you think this thing has to happen for you to be happy now. Okay, so what happiness are you putting off for the future? And another way to get more reward is to increase the amount of rewards you get from non-kid related stuff. Not because you are an over-involved loser that doesn't have your own life. That's basically society's message to moms. some version of like, you should give with no expectation of any return, but you also can't give from an empty cup. So I don't know, like if you have no expectation of return, I don't know how you're filling your cup. Oh, you should fill your own cup because your kids don't owe you anything. But also, you should be spending everything on them or they'll not think they're important forever. But also you should have, like, the messages are very tricky and complicated and basically designed to make you feel like whatever you're doing when you feel bad is wrong and it's your fault. And I want you to scrape all of that nonsense. I want you to begin the practice of scraping all of that nonsense out of your own mind. We're going to rewire those neurons so that they connect in different ways, and you can start to feel good about like more this time being more time for you. Not because you're an over-involved loser, but because you genuinely deserve more joy in your life, more pleasure, more fun. And as your kids are separating and getting their own life, a way to bring more joy in is to be asking yourself, like, where else could I be getting pleasure? That is why I started working with other parents, is because this is fun for me. Making this podcast is fun for me. This is one of the joys I added into my life when my kids were both teenagers. So in order to find a balance that actually works for you and your family, again, we're ignoring everyone else's scale. This is the phase where you, in order to get the adequate rewards that you need to feel good about yourself as a person and yourself as a parent, you have to both learn new ways to get them from your family and new ways to get them outside your family. Or you have to dramatically reduce the costs associated with parenting, or a combination of both. And thinking about this balance is a hallmark of a relationship that evolves over time. Okay? It's the key to, like, if you go home for holidays and you still feel like you're 6, like your mom is treating you like you were, you're still a bratty teenager, it's because your relationship hasn't evolved over time. She is not seeing you as the adult you are. And so it's a gift both to yourself and to your kids to, on purpose, be evolving your relationship right now. Okay? And it's the key to less time crying on your closet floor and more time actually enjoying your family. Right now, my oldest is upstairs playing a game with his girlfriend. They're playing Ticket to Ride. And my youngest is painting. She's painting the guest bedroom because she loves to paint and listen to podcasts. My husband is out skiing, and I am hanging here with you. My family, and then later, like, we have plans for this afternoon where we're all going to be together. And we've got this fun meal planned, and there are these things in the area that my son wants to show his girlfriend. Like, we have a fun afternoon where we're together. My family, I tell you this because my family has found a balance of being together and pursuing our own interests that really works for us. And that is what I want for you. I want you to love this phase of your life and the next one and the next one. I want you to be happy now and not be putting your happiness off for the future or be pining for the way things used to be. And if you would like help with that, please, please, please let me help you, because it is so worth the work of finding that balance, finding your personal balance. So if you want that too, go to my website and book a free call where we will look at your balance right now, and then we'll make a plan for a balance that's going to feel better for you. And my other request is, if this podcast helped you think about parenting in a new way, please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. It's free and it helps people, and I want so many of you write me and tell me that it helped, and I want as many parents as possible to feel the freedom that I have found and to feel the joy that I have found. to enjoy this moment right now. Talk to you next week.